Hey guys, I'm going to show you the best methods for making a simple track saw for your circular saw, or not even a track saw, but a straight edge that gives your saw a guide to give yourself perfectly straight cuts. You don't have to measure or do any offset, work that you typically have to do if you're just clamping a straight edge on. And one of the things I love to use for these is a piece of LVP flooring, especially now. LVP is starting to come in longer and longer lengths. This one is only 6 foot long. We still don't have full 8 foot, pieces yet. But with this 6 foot long plank, I can cross cut any sheet of plywood without a problem. And if I wanted to rip a piece, it's only two repositions of the track. You start it off probably about, you get most of the cut done with your first pass. Then you set the side of your track forward, maybe 10-15 inches, and you can get the rest of the cut. The pros and cons to using a track guide like this: whenever you're using the LVP flooring, because the plank itself is so thin, you can't really countersink anything from the underside. And the secondary issue ends up being that you cannot glue it. Typically, if you're making a straight edge out of plywood, like 1/2 inch ply, you can actually at least glue your strip or your guide directly to your plywood and add staples. That way it's not going to move over time. But in this case, this track guide, we'll see how long it lasts. I've never actually made one just using staples like this, but I'm using 1/2 inch staples. I have a 1/2 inch guide on the top side. One other thing I can tell you guys that is probably pretty crucial to do is maybe make your guide just a little bit wider, so that way when you clamp or use, like, let's say regular quick clamp on the edge of it to kind of hold your track in place, you don't have to worry about it interfering with the motor of your circular saw. It doesn't interfere on this one even when I throw clamps on, but I have less of a margin to actually throw my clamps on. So if your strip is 4 inches wide, you have plenty of room to clamp to, but 2-inch wide strip, etc., less clamping options when you're dealing with your motor of your circular saw. The other downside to using tracks like this is that you can't bevel your saw over to make a cut. So this is only for straight 90-degree cuts, but it does give you a clear reference edge, so you know exactly where your saw is going to land. And whenever you're using the LVP flooring, you already have the grippy surface on the backside, so it's a lot easier to sit it on top of a piece of material and make your cut. The other thing though that makes the LVP slightly superior than other plywoods is that it's able to contour or bow. So if you're making like a shorter track and you're trying to cross cut like stair treads or something that might not be perfectly flat, you're able to actually have your plank actually kind of contour to your material, so you don't have to worry about it only making one point of contact. So let's say you have a board that's cupped, with a big crown in it, and it's 12-13 inches wide or something. If it has that cup in it, if you set a standard track on it, it's only going to be riding on that belly. So this is not going to be a good way to kind of keep it in place. But with the construction of the track, after you guys saw me staple it together, I just need to trim off this little bit excess down here on the end, and then we need to trim it to the actual size of your saw. This is the thing that makes it custom to any saw that you're currently using, because every saw has an offset from the edge of the base plate over to the blade, and that's kind of why this track is kind of custom per saw. You might find a saw or two out there where everything's perfectly lined up. I haven't found one yet. I'm actually going to show you guys later with my DeWalt saw. I can't use my DeWalt saw on this same track, but once you get everything kind of assembled and get your guide rail set, the last thing you need to do is actually cut or run your saw perfectly along that straight edge to give yourself your zero clearance. Pretty much your circular saw is going to ride along the edge and then cut off any of the excess, and then you'll know from here on that edge is where the inside cut of your circular saw blade is going to be. So whenever you need to make a cut, all you have to do is plop it down right there on top of that edge, and you know exactly where your blade is going to land at. I was trying to clamp this down and make my cut. I think the issue that I ran into with this one was again, the motor. I don't have enough to actually throw a clamp fully on it, but afterwards I am able to actually fit quick clamps and adjustable clamps on it. But just one of those downfalls that I didn't really think about. I was just using scrap plywood that I already had inside the shop. But I am going to make a couple other versions of this track, probably using some 1/2 inch plywood, just so I can actually add a square fence to it, so I can make perfectly 90-degree cuts. Also, I do like making them out of plywood for the simple fact that I know that the rail itself is not going to move because this can be glued and stapled. I might make one that's fully 3/4 inches thick, and maybe try to make one that works for bevels. There's a way to do it. I'll probably show you guys in a future video, but I hope this process is actually showing you guys enough. And yeah, I will be using this throughout the rest of this build, and I can tell you for a lot of projects coming up. A straight edge for your saw until you can get yourself a track saw is definitely invaluable. It's one of those things that can transform your working process, especially if you don't have a table saw, or if you haven't gotten to like getting miter saws and everything else for like larger cuts. This right here can transform your circular saw into something that's not quite a track saw, but we'll call it 85% of the way there. But again, if you guys have enjoyed, let me know down in the comments. Leave me a like and subscribe. Follow all of my other social medias, being Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Yeah. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.